Restoring rhythm without effort. You have already done the most important work, not by completing anything, not by changing yourself, but by slowing long enough to notice. Part 1 was not about improvement, it was about recognition. You began to sense where rhythm had thinned, where days blended together, where energy arrived unevenly or left too quickly. Nothing about that was wrong. It was simply information. In Ayurveda, rhythm is not something we impose. It is something we return to. And return does not mean go back. It means reestablish a conversation between the body and time. Part 2 is where that conversation becomes steadier, not louder, not more detailed, just steadier. You may notice that the body responds differently now. Subtle shifts, moments of ease that appear without effort, fatigue that feels less threatening, less personal. This is not progress in the usual sense, it is integration. Integration means the body no longer feels observed or managed. It begins to trust the environment again. In this phase, Ayurveda does not ask for new techniques. It asks for consistency without rigidity, the same wakefulness, the same softness, the same permission to rest when rest is needed. If you feel resistance here, that is normal. Integration can feel quieter than change, and quiet can feel unfamiliar. You are not losing momentum, you are settling into rhythm. From here forward, we are not correcting anything. We are allowing the body to keep what works. Energy will not surge dramatically. Calm will not arrive as a permanent state. Instead, you may notice something more sustainable. A day that feels less jagged. A night that arrives more naturally. A body that does not argue as much with time. That is rhythm returning. As you continue through this part, remember, you do not need to listen perfectly. You do not need to remember everything. You do not need to apply anything immediately. The body absorbs rhythm the way it absorbs warmth, gradually. For now, let this be enough. You are not beginning again, you are continuing, and the body knows how to do that. Day 6. Letting the body keep its own time. By now, something subtle may be happening. Not a breakthrough, not a surge of energy, just a slight softening in how the day unfolds. This is important. The body does not restore rhythm by moving faster. It restores rhythm by no longer being rushed from the inside. Many people believe imbalance comes from doing the wrong things. Ayurveda observes something different. Imbalance often comes from doing the right things at the wrong pace, too quickly, too tightly, too often without pause. Day 6 is about time, not clock time, not schedules or alarms, but biological time, the pace at which the body naturally wants to move, digest, rest, and recover. When rhythm is strained, the body loses trust in time. It stops expecting nourishment to arrive calmly. It stops expecting rest to be safe. So it compensates by holding tension, by staying alert, by keeping energy in reserve. This is not anxiety, this is protection. Nothing has gone wrong. The body learned to stay prepared because it did not feel supported by consistency. Ayurveda restores rhythm not by control, but by predictability without pressure. Gentle repetition, familiar sequences, a sense that tomorrow will resemble today in kind ways. You may notice the body responding to sameness now, not boredom, relief. Meals that arrive at similar times feel grounding. Evenings that slow in familiar ways feel safer. Sleep begins to approach rather than being chased. This does not require discipline. It requires permission to stop improvising your way through survival. Day 6 invites you to notice where you rush without needing to, where you speed up not because life demands it, but because the body expects interruption. If nothing interrupts, the body softens. That softening is not laziness, it is regulation. Energy becomes steadier when it no longer needs to defend itself. Ayurveda does not ask you to slow everything down, it asks you to let one part of the day move at a kinder pace. Just one. Not as a task, as a condition. When time feels spacious in one place, the nervous system learns that space is possible elsewhere too. You may feel moments of restlessness today. That is common. The body sometimes resists rhythm before it trusts it. Let that be. You are not required to fix restlessness. You are only asked not to escalate it. Stillness does not need to be deep. It only needs to be allowed. As this day settles, remember, the body does not want perfection. It wants reliability, not intensity, not motivation, reliability. You are not building a routine. You are re-establishing a relationship with time. And relationships do not need force. They need presence. They need patience. They need room to unfold. For today, this is enough. Day 7. When balance no longer needs attention. Today is not a finish line. There is nothing to complete, nothing to seal or secure. Day 7 is about noticing what no longer asks to be managed. When rhythm begins to return, it does not announce itself loudly. It becomes less noticeable. The body stops asking for constant correction. Signals grow quieter. Edges soften. This can feel unfamiliar. Many people are used to listening for problems, listening for what needs fixing. So, when the body becomes calm, the mind may search for something to improve. This is not a mistake. It is a habit formed during imbalance. Ayurveda observes that balance often feels like absence before it feels like presence. Less noise, less urgency, less self-monitoring. That does not mean nothing is happening. It means the body is working without supervision. This is intelligence at rest. On day 7, you may notice moments where you forget about your body altogether. You eat without thinking much about digestion. You move without evaluating energy levels. You rest without negotiating with guilt. These moments matter. They signal that the body feels safe enough to operate on its own. Balance is not something you hold. It is something that holds you when conditions are right. The work of the past days was never about control. It was about reducing interference. Less pushing, less correcting, less forcing rhythm to appear. And now, rhythm begins to sustain itself. Not perfectly, not permanently, but naturally. There may still be fluctuations, days that feel heavier, moments of tension or fatigue. These are not signs of failure. They are part of living in a body. Ayurveda does not promise steadiness at all times. It supports return to warmth, return to digestion, return to rest. You do not need to restart this process when life shifts. You only need to remember what conditions helped the body settle. Gentleness, consistency, enough space to respond. Today is about trust. Not trust in a method, not trust in a system, trust in the body's ability to recalibrate when it is no longer rushed or ignored. If you carry one understanding forward, let it be this. Balance is not something you maintain through effort. It is something you stop disrupting. Your body already knows how to regulate. It only needed the environment to remember. As this chapter closes, there is nothing else to do. No next step to prepare for. No outcome to chase. You have arrived at a place of steadiness, and from here, rhythm continues, quietly, patiently, on its own. Day 8. When energy becomes quietly reliable. By now, energy may feel different, not stronger, not brighter, more available. This kind of energy doesn't announce itself. It doesn't rush forward. It doesn't demand to be used. It simply stays. Ayurveda understands energy as something that moves best when it is not watched too closely, when it is trusted to circulate on its own. Earlier, energy may have come in waves, followed by drops, spikes of alertness followed by depletion. That pattern was not a personal flaw. It was the body responding to irregular support. Today, energy may feel flatter, and that is not a loss. Flat energy is often stable energy. It means the body is no longer borrowing from tomorrow to survive today. This is an important shift. Many people mistake calm energy for boredom, or neutrality for lack, but neutrality is where resilience lives. When energy no longer needs to defend itself, it becomes quietly dependable. Day 8 is about noticing what no longer drains you as quickly. Tasks that once felt heavy may feel manageable. Not exciting, manageable. Conversations may feel easier to enter and easier to leave. Focus may come and go without friction. These are signs of regulation. The body is no longer operating in emergency mode. Ayurveda does not celebrate constant vitality. It values sustainability, energy that can be returned to again and again without collapse. If you feel less driven today, that is not regression. Drive often rises when the body feels threatened. As safety returns, drive softens. What replaces it is steadiness. Steadiness does not push, it carries. You may also notice today that rest feels different, less dramatic, less urgent. Rest no longer needs to compensate for exhaustion. It simply supports continuation. This is how rhythm protects energy, by preventing the extremes that waste it. Day 8 does not ask you to use this energy well. It asks you not to test it. Let energy remain unproven. Let it exist without being measured or spent deliberately. Trust builds when energy is allowed to stay. If fatigue appears today, let it pass without interpretation. If alertness appears, let it pass the same way. Neither requires action. Both belong. The body is learning that energy does not need to be guarded or justified. It can simply move. As this day settles, notice how little explanation is required now. Less commentary, less management, less concern. This is not indifference, it is regulation becoming familiar. Day 8 is not about increasing capacity. It is about stopping the leaks that once made energy feel scarce. Nothing needs to be added, nothing needs to be removed. You are allowed to continue at this pace. Day 9. When motivation is no longer required. Today is about motivation and gently setting it down. Many people believe that energy depends on motivation, that clarity appears when willpower is strong, that consistency is sustained by desire. Ayurveda sees something else. Motivation is often a response to instability. It rises when rhythm is missing. It pushes when timing is unclear. When rhythm returns, motivation becomes unnecessary. This can feel confusing. If you are used to relying on drive to get through the day, its absence may feel like loss. But what replaces it is not emptiness, it is ease. Ease is not laziness, it is action without friction. Today, you may notice that you do things without the internal buildup that used to be required. You begin without negotiation. You stop without resistance. This is not because you care less. It is because the body is no longer bracing. When rhythm is present, the body doesn't need to convince itself to act. Action arises naturally from timing. Ayurveda values this deeply. It understands that effort is expensive. It costs energy, attention, and recovery. When effort is no longer needed to initiate movement, energy is preserved. You may also notice today that enthusiasm feels quieter, not gone, just less urgent. This is not a problem. High enthusiasm often compensates for instability. It overrides signals of fatigue and pushes the system forward. As rhythm stabilizes, enthusiasm becomes steadier and less dramatic. It no longer needs to carry the day. If you find yourself questioning this, wondering if something is missing, pause there. That questioning often comes from old patterns formed when the body needed to be pushed to function. You no longer need that strategy. Day 9 invites you to trust neutral willingness, the willingness that doesn't announce itself, that doesn't need encouragement, that doesn't require pressure. This willingness feels like, I can, not I must. It's subtle, and it's powerful. Ayurveda does not ask you to cultivate motivation. It asks you to restore the conditions where motivation becomes irrelevant. When digestion is regular, when sleep is responsive, when pace is humane. From there, life moves on its own. If today feels ordinary, let it be ordinary. Ordinary days are a sign of rhythm returning. Extraordinary effort is no longer required. As this day closes, notice how little persuasion is needed now. Notice how much less energy is spent convincing yourself. That is not loss. That is freedom. Day 9 is not about becoming inspired. It is about no longer needing to be. Day 10. Living inside rhythm. Today is not about carrying something forward. It is about noticing what has already stayed. Rhythm, when it returns, does not require maintenance. It requires non-interference. By now, you may sense that the body is less reactive, less urgent, less insistent, not because everything is perfect, but because timing has become more reliable. This is what Ayurveda trusts: not control, not intensity, not constant attention, but alignment. Alignment is not something you hold in place. It is something that happens when pressure is removed. Over these days, rhythm did not arrive through effort. It arrived through space. Space to finish digesting, space to finish resting, space to finish responding. When experiences are allowed to complete, the body does not stay on alert. It does not hoard energy. It does not rush the next moment. It simply continues. Day 10 is about allowing this continuation without labeling it. You do not need to say, "I am balanced now." You do not need to track how long this lasts. Those thoughts reintroduce monitoring. Instead, let rhythm remain unspoken. You may notice that when life becomes busy again, the body responds differently, not by collapsing, not by tightening immediately. There may be more flexibility, more room to adjust. That is rhythm working quietly. Ayurveda does not promise protection from disruption. It supports return. Return to warmth when cold appears. Return to rest when effort accumulates. Return to simplicity when complexity grows. This return does not require restarting this process. It only requires remembering what helped the body settle: gentleness, predictability, enough time for things to end. You may also notice that your relationship with time has shifted, less fighting it, less trying to stay ahead of it. Time becomes something you move with, not against. This is one of the deepest forms of calm, not absence of activity, but absence of resistance. As this audiobook concludes, there is nothing to integrate deliberately. The body integrates rhythm the way it integrates sleep or nourishment, on its own schedule. You can revisit any part of this when it feels supportive, or not at all. There is no sequence to protect. Rhythm lives in familiarity, not repetition. Day 10 is not a closing in the usual sense. It is a settling, a sense that the body has remembered something it already knew, and from here, life continues. Not perfectly, not predictably, but with less strain. That is enough. Closing thoughts. Let rhythm continue. As this audiobook comes to a close, there is nothing you need to carry forward deliberately. No practices to remember, no habits to maintain, no balance to protect. What matters does not leave when the listening ends. Rhythm, once reintroduced, does not require constant attention. It returns when the body feels allowed to respond in its own time. If some days feel steadier than others, let that be normal. If energy rises and falls, let that be human. Ayurveda does not promise permanence. It supports return. Return to warmth when things feel cold. Return to rest when effort accumulates. Return to simplicity when life becomes crowded. You do not need to restart this process when life shifts. You only need to remember that pressure was never the answer. Gentleness created space. Consistency created safety. Time did the rest. If you choose to revisit these chapters, do so without expectation. Let them meet you where you are, not where you think you should be. And if you do not return, that is also fine. The body has learned enough to continue on its own. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving the body time to respond without force. If this audiobook felt supportive, you're welcome to subscribe to this channel to listen to future guided audiobooks, meditative reflections, and gentle conversations rooted in Ayurvedic wisdom. Before we end, a brief reminder: this audiobook is for educational and supportive purposes only. It is not medical advice and does not replace care from a qualified healthcare professional. Always consult a medical provider regarding any health concerns. For now, there is nothing else to do. You can return to your day, or remain here a little longer. Both are part of rhythm. You can rest here. With love, Estrella.